Hey everyone, Joshua Hanlon here, and today I'm in Evansville, Indiana at the World War II LEGO event, and I'm joined by Dan Siskind from Brickmania, and he's going to take us through this massive D-Day layout here for, some longer-term viewers of Beyond the Brick. You might recognize something we covered a couple of years ago that had a similar layout, but Dan switched up the ships and things here, and there's some new details and everything. So you want to take us through the whole layout then?
Sure, yeah. The previous version of this, I think it had the LST in it. So the LST was actually donated to LST 325. We actually converted it into their ship. So we wanted to preserve the D-Day diorama. And this is actually what we wanted to do from the get-go, depicting it as it was on June 6, 1944. So this is like the initial waves of the Americans and Allies hitting Omaha Beach. So we shortened the amount of water because we don't have that gigantic ship in the way anymore. And we extended the beach. The diorama is exactly the same size. There's just a lot more of it now. Okay. So a lot more land. So what you see out in the water here, these are landing craft. The big ones are landing LCTs. They're landing, the one the camera's on now, that's LCM, landing craft mechanical. Basically, one Sherman tank would fit in there. They didn't like to do that because it's so heavy that it almost waterlogs the boat. We did get a nice donation of brick arm shells. So as you see, it is completely full of shells. There's definitely no smoking allowed on that boat, but they're firing their guns anyway. The bigger craft, these are LCTs. They're landing. It's a landing craft that can hold up to 5 Sherman tanks. For the sake of this diorama, we only have 2 on each. I think we've pilfered tanks off of these for other dioramas. So in the water, we have 2 of these. One that old one in the back that the camera's on right now. That's Old Gray. So that thing's been around for quite a long time. One of my older models, and then Cody built a newer version of it in front here. His is New Gray. He probably had a better use of parts than I did. Anyway.
You just struggle with what was available back then?
Yeah, that was built years and years ago before Brickmania was really as big as it was, and my budget was a lot smaller. So that's an old castle taken apart right there, for sure. So we have all the lit up landing craft in the water. The machine guns it's a lighting effect from Brick Stuff. These are, I believe, older machine gun effects boards. They kind of flash an awful lot, so it looks like those machine guns would be overheating by now at this point.
No, but it adds a great kind of popping effect. So is that kind of difficult to add into these, or talk about kind of logistics of adding lights in like that to so many of these kind of builds?
The lights they're really not difficult. The Brick Stuff lights, the only drawback about them, it's actually kind of a blessing and a curse. The wires are very thin and they're very delicate, so you can easily break the wires. Oh, okay. On the other hand, they're really easy to conceal. So like it's 2 sides of the same coin. We're traveling a lot. We tend to stuff gets banged around. If you're building at home,
you're probably a little more intense with the models than most builders would be.
Right, and a lot of hands, because when Brickmania sets up a huge display like this, it's not just me putting it together. If I was to set this up by myself, it would be like 2 8-hour days. So I think we figured out this particular diorama, 2 people takes 8 hours to set up. 4 people can do it in 4 hours, and it's just a hugely time-consuming process. And when you have that many hands in it, there's definitely different people are going to do stuff differently, and they may not know the whole system of how the lights work, how fragile things are. So we've learned by experience to bring extra spares with lights and stuff like that. But if you're doing it at home and you know exactly the whole system, the lights are easy. Everything's easy to work with.
And that's why you do things like the parts dumping with the water, because obviously that saves time.
If you go back and look at your old videos, I'm sure you can see that the water's blue, and we used to do a lot more with the wakes and like now we're like, oh, it's too much. We've given up. So we've spent many days, many hours sorting water back to its original base colors. So here we have one of the landing craft took a direct hit from the Germans, and there's an awful lot of blood in the water here, but that's kind of the way it was. And so we usually limit ourselves to sort of PG displays, but this time we were like, okay, well this is probably the last time this diorama, actually I can tell you right now, this is the last time this will be viewed by the public. So we are building an aircraft carrier, and this will all become part of the aircraft carrier. So everything that's gray you see here will be part of the aircraft carrier. Even the tan, even the beach will be inside somewhere. So.
And then we've got this crazy box-looking thing going here. So talk about what that is for people who might not be familiar with that.
Actually, to start with that, you can look at the one on the ground here. So it's the same thing. So this is a Sherman tank, and that dark tan thing, that ring around it, is what they call it's like a weighting. It's like basically a canvas boat that wraps around the tank. They drop the skirts down, raise up the sides, And then you end up with something that looks like this in the water. It's basically a flotation device for a Sherman tank. And just the air inside of that is enough buoyancy to keep that Sherman tank from sinking. And the guys were way down inside of it. They'd have to stand up on the roof. And you can see them bailing water out of it in there too. But they'd have to stand up on the roof of the tank and yell down orders like, go left, go right. So they swam these tanks ashore. It's a duplex drive. The one on the shore here, you can see the little propellers. Let me turn it. You'll be able to see the little propellers. Duplex drive, because there's two propellers sticking out of the back of the thing. It crawled through the water at like 3 miles an hour or something. So these were supposed to hit the beach first, the first wave of D-Day. And it took them so long to get to shore that the infantry actually beat them to shore. Okay. And some of them just sank outright. Like you can see those guys bailing water out of that one.
Doesn't seem like a fun job there.
Yeah, I think the Americans, because the Americans landed on Omaha Beach. On Omaha Beach, I think they lost about half of them to being swamped by the waves. The British were luckier. They landed on a more sheltered beach. They didn't have that problem. So
then as we come ashore here, what do we have?
You have the infantry. So the Americans landed during low tide. The Allies, not just the Americans, landed on low tide. As you can see, these obstacles. These are like basically like obstacles designed to destroy landing ships. So you have these wooden, they're gigantic sharp wooden objects sitting in the water covered with mines. So if a ship came and landed at high tide, it would basically hit these mines and blow up. And if you have a ship full of troops, that's not a good thing. So the Allies decided they would land at high tide or low tide, so the water's way out here. Unfortunately, it means that also there's this huge expanse of beach between the water and the waiting Germans on the other side. So this is just basically a killing zone. So all the Americans had to wade through the water all the way across the beach before they could even get to within range of possibility of even fighting the Germans, let alone getting up off the beach. So you have a lot of guys running through the open expanse. Engineers came through and blew up all these mines and stuff, but this is how it was before the beach was secured.
Yeah, and you can just see, there would have been a lot of this open space and everything, like you said. There's not a lot to protect yourself.
Right. Yeah, it took a lot of guts to run across, but if you stayed in one place, you're actually more likely to get shot by not moving because you just present yourself as a target. So, so this is a lot of minifigures on here, as you can see. These are all old Brickmania figures that we, pilfered from our own stash to make this beach scene. So.
And then what are some of the obstacles we have as you get closer up here?
Yeah, so these are designed to destroy these out here. These are designed to destroy ships. As you get closer to shore, these black things are anti-tank obstacles. So they're called like tetrahedrons. Was one name. They're basically tank traps. So the infantry could get past them, obviously, but the tanks would get hung up on them. They wouldn't be able to get past them. So engineers had to either come and bulldoze them out of the way or blow them up. And as you get closer to the shore, the Germans had this whole, there's basically a sand berm, like a hill with barbed wire running across the top. If you wanted to get through it, the idea was that you'd have to run up to the barbed wire, try to climb over it, and then you're an easy target for the guys waiting up on the hill. So these guys are trying to blow a hole through the barbed wire so they could get through. I mean, this is what really happened on D-Day. So. I don't know about the Captain America part, but I heard he was there.
It depends on which history book you're reading.
Right. So these guys they're basically stuck at the sand berm. The next phase would be them. They actually had to get through the barbed wire, get up into the top of the hills here, and take out the Germans any way they could. So at the point in this battle right now, the Americans haven't gotten through the front, but you have some guys up on top. You have some paratroopers up on top that did manage to make it up there. Again, I don't know about the Wonder Woman part, but I heard she was there.
And then you even got kind of trenches in the built into the cliff.
The cliff. This is Omaha Beach, and the cliffs above Omaha Beach were heavily fortified. So the Germans had built bunkers into the cliff face, gigantic naval guns. Some of the guns some of the lights aren't exactly working right now. And quite frankly, since we're tearing this apart next week, I'm like, okay, I won't.
There's only so much you're putting into it.
Right. So it's traveled around quite a bit. I'm looking for, I look at this and I'm like, oh, I want all these bricks because below the surface here is just 2x4 bricks. It's like builder's gold.
That'll be the inside of whatever next big ship you're doing.
It'll be an aircraft carrier. I'll spill the beans right now.
There you go. Yeah. So how long is this whole thing? Do you know?
Right, what you're looking at right now is 24 feet.
Okay.
We've made this thing as long as 30 feet in the past. Depends on where we go, what we have for table space, and what we're putting on it. So this is about average. Usually it's about 24 feet.
Do you try to build pretty much most of your displays to kind of be flexible like that? Because obviously you're taking it to different size shows and everything, so it needs to be able to move around and then be able to set up at different sizes.
Well, we typically would build to table size. So standard banquet tables are 30 inches deep by 8 feet long and so we build to that. Our own tables that we buy are 30 by 60, and we try to make it so we can shift around. You know, that's perfect for Lego base plates.
Okay.
4 Lego base plates equals 60 inches wide, and two Lego base plates deep is 30 inches wide. So it's a standard banquet table that work really well with Lego. So this one is one of the few ones that we can actually customize in length, because the water is just any length that we want to make it. The shore is 12 feet, and we can't do anything about that because it just gently slopes all the way down. But we do, I mean, especially some of the other displays that don't have fixed boundaries, we can make them any size we want.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's nice as you guys go to so many shows over the years and all different areas setting up.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. So we bring our own tables sometimes. If we don't have room, we rely on what the destination location has, or for like at a convention or something. Sometimes the tables are just weird sizes, and we make do. We've actually gone to TV studios to set up stuff, and they're like, oh, we were supposed to have tables for you, like, so we've had to improvise. We've done stuff on bar stools. We've done, you name it, we've done it. So.
Yeah, well, nice. Well, I'm glad we're able to capture this one last time before you tear this apart for the next big aircraft carrier build.
Yeah, this is a fun one, but yeah, it's time to go. We'll do another D-Day, some tie-in next year.
For sure. We'll look forward to it. Thank you.
Yep.